Welcome to Cinema Chop Shop. Watch, chop, retrofit.
I've got a Canon.
Yeah?
For real.
Okay.
I've
my
seen
house.
Travis's
Is it
Canon.
like one of those little ones?
No, it's pretty big, man. It's pretty good size.
It's
Substantial.
loud, too.
It's loud as fuck. No, for real, though, I do have a Canon. It's a black powder Canon that my dad made me because he was a gun maker when I was a kid. So I got this in first grade, and one of the things that the teacher was asking is like, oh, what are you going to get for Christmas? What did you ask for Christmas? I was like, I asked for a Canon. And everybody laughed, including the teacher. And then after Christmas, my dad brought the Canon to school for show and tell.
Laugh now, bitches.
Exactly.
But this isn't a pirate era weapons podcast.
Nope.
This is Cinema Chop Shop. It's a movie podcast where we get together and talk about movies and such. I'm your host, Sean, and I'm joined by the usual crew. I've got Joey Poole.
Hello.
We've got Todd.
Howdy.
And Travis Cito.
I'm here as well.
All right. Speaking of cannons, though, we are talking about Canon
Canon Pictures, the Canon group. They went by like a few different names over the years, but it all incorporated Canon.
Yes.
Not the Andre Agassi Canon.
And not the camera Canon.
No. And if you do a search, you'll get crossover.
If you search Canon Pictures, you will get images of Canons.
Yes, the cameras. It's very confusing. For those of you who don't know, Canon Pictures Group existed from 1967 through 1994. It was started by Dennis Friedland and Chris Dewey. They were doing English adaptations of Swedish softcore porn
Correct.
early on, but then they started introducing some of their own films. The earliest of note was Joe in 1970, starring Peter Boyle.
I have a question about this movie. Have any of you seen it?
I've
Joe?
not.
I
If
have not.
any of our listeners want to chime in with this, I'd be curious. I don't know if I want to watch it, but on the Canon documentary, I have questions about Joe because it seems like he's like a sort of a cranky right-wing vigilante type guy, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering where the politics of this movie lie, especially given the film I'm going to talk about later and a lot
Yeah.
of others in the canon.
Well, and
And
also
who did you say
the
stars in Joe?
Peter Boyle.
Okay.
Charles Bronson, his post-Death Wish era was notably accused of being right-wing, and he did several pictures with a Canon group.
I was just wondering if it looks like he kills hippies from what I saw in the thing, and I was wondering if
I think it's reactionary, anti-hippie
and
type
is he
propaganda.
kind of like an anti-hero kind of thing? I mean, I'm just curious as to what the tone of the movie's
We
like.
might
I
have to
don't-
check it out.
Yeah.
Due to financial woes, the group sold to Golan and Globus in 1979.
For $500,000, they
And-
bought a movie studio.
You have a pair of Israeli filmmakers.
They're cousins.
Yes, and they made quite a few crazy-sounding movies of their own in Israel, mostly rip-offs of American films. So they took over, and they just began using bottom-of-the-barrel scripts and pushing them into productions. You mentioned they bought the rights to Death Wish, so they came out with Death Wish 2 and the subsequent sequels.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about diminishing returns. Wow. Terrible. They were known for bringing in the Chuck Norris movies, Delta Force, Missing in Action, and another film that Joey will talk about later.
And Missing in Action was criticized pretty heavily for being a ripoff of Rambo.
Yeah, and that's all it was, blatantly. And several of their films suffered from this same problem, if you will. They capitalized on the ninja craze.
You got to give them credit. They basically brought the concept of the ninja to the mainstream.
Yeah, agreed. They didn't know fuck all about ninjas. They didn't care about any authenticity of ninjas or the lore. They just went whole hog and to two different franchises, the Enter the Ninja franchise and then the American Ninja franchise, which if you've not seen American Ninja 3,
I've seen the first
The
one.
Domination,
Oh, that's the one with the girl.
with the girl.
Yeah.
Maybe that's from Enter the Ninja. Whatever. Anyway, that one's crazy.
It's just called Ninja 3 The Domination, so I think it's a sequel to Enter and Revenge.
Please tell me she's a ninja dominatrix.
No.
No, damn. Well, never mind.
She's just a
My interest
a
just
female
waned.
ninja, and that was actually the downfall of the film, is audiences didn't respect a female ninja.
Yeah, she was possessed by the spirit of an evil ninja. Anyway, they did the movie Break-In. They did Last American Virgin.
Yep.
They did the movie The Apple, which
So
you've not
weird.
seen. The Apple, check
I
it
want
out.
to watch that based on the documentary because it looks
It's bizarre.
bonkers.
It's Golan wanted it to be his
Tommy,
his,
right.
his rock opera
Yeah.
movie.
Crazy. And then they did erotic flicks like Lady Chatterley's Lover, Bolero, The Happy Hooker, those kind of movies.
Well, a lot of their movies just mixed in elements that could have been called softcore porn
Sure.
anyway.
Yeah, a lot of them featured a lot of naked people, famous naked people now.
Joey, did you know that Counselor Troy was in a couple of these movies naked?
I did not know this.
Yeah, I thought you'd be interested in
I
that.
am interested.
She's in the documentary naked. If you watched the...
I haven't. I've seen like I watched the first maybe 45 minutes.
She tells a
and kinda
story about
skimmed
how
the rest,
she
yeah.
had to lie on a wooden floor topless in freezing cold weather.
for like 3 hours.
And like one of the production people went to cover her, and then Golan was like, "No, fuck that, no."
Yep.
So,
And
yeah.
I think the nudity thing was set. That template was set by that Israeli film that was apparently huge in Israel. That was like a teen type,
yeah,
movie.
It looks like
Lemon
Porky.
something.
Yeah.
it was
Lemon
the
Pie.
movie that became the remake, I guess you would call it, would
Yep.
be the
Yep.
Last American Virgin.
And then they were like, "Hey, we throw some nudity in the mix in whatever genre
Everyone
we're operating
loves
in."
boobies.
Everybody loves, yeah.
So significant about these guys, they advertised every year at Cannes.
And they were,
Con.
that's a very, besides the Star Trek reference, they were conning people though.
Because they were advertising movies that were not even
in production.
but they would claim that they were.
They would make the poster and then get somebody to invest in it, and then they would just use that money to make the next movie on their slate.
That's kind of cool to troll the
Cinema
RD
community.
cinematic
Just playing
establishment.
fast and loose with money, which was a theme with this group throughout the years. They had the film rights for Spider-Man
Yeah.
for a time, and they went into a big legal battle that ultimately pulled in Marvel and Sony, and it stretched out for years. They famously had the rights to do Superman 4
The Quest for Peace.
and cut the special effects budget from like 30 million to 16 million, which is why it looks like shit. They were sued by Dustin Hoffman
Because they told people that he was in a film they were making.
and
he
under
had-
contract.
And he had nothing to do with it.
Yep. They underwent an SEC investigation, and as a result, Giancarlo Peretti took over in 1987 with the bankruptcy restructuring. And the thing about him was that he was tied to a credit company, and so we got into some defaulting on loans. And as a result, we began to get into even bigger problems. Amidst all this, trying to get ahead of their cash flow issues, they made a $1.2 billion bid for MGM
Right.
and bought it. For a time, they owned MGM.
Yeah.
And again, not paying their bills. They were just constantly chasing after this dollar was the expression borrowing from Peter to pay Paul.
Robbing Peter.
Yeah, okay, so that's what they were
Or
doing.
a pyramid scheme,
Or
essentially,
Ponzi
is
scheme,
more
yeah.
like.
Yeah. And
essentially was what they
I think
were.
it's important to understand the dynamic these two had. One of them, Golan, was the quote-unquote filmmaker, while Globus was the businessman, the sales pitch guy.
Right.
And they say he was damn good at it because he could sell investors on garbage.
yeah.
And they were all about quantity over quality.
At one point, they released like 47 movies in 1 year, something like that.
43 in
Okay.
1986.
Thank you. All right. Ultimately, the company was foreclosed on in 1991 for a loan default, and as a result, things just kind of petered out into this pathetic whimper of a death. I think that the 1980s would stand as the banner for
The
canon.
golden age. Of
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were so many VHS movies that I watched as a kid that always started out with that Canon group
Well, even
logo.
doing research for this episode, it's like, oh shit, they did King Solomon's Mines and the Alan Quartermain movies.
Oh, even
with-
that story's
with
hilarious.
Sharon Stone. So Golan was like, "Get me the Stone movie girl. Get
Yeah.
me the Stone movie girl."
Yeah.
And they thought that he
wanted
meant Sharon Stone,
Stone.
so they hire Sharon Stone. Turns out he wanted the actress from Romancing the Stone.
Kathleen
That was
Kathleen
Kathleen
Turner,
Turner.
yeah.
So yes, if you've not seen the documentary, Electric Boogaloo, which they produced, Break In and Break Into Electric Boogaloo. Check that one out.
And then also, at the very end of the documentary, as a subnote, they say that they approached Golan and Globus to be in the documentary, which they declined, and then immediately made their own documentary about themselves called The Go-Go Boys, and it beat this documentary to print by weeks.
Yes. A footnote to that, of course, when they had the incoming of was it Peretti, whatever his last name is? Yeah. One of the Golan or Globus, I can't remember which one it was, left the group and began working on his own.
He made his own company, 21st Century Pictures, not to be confused with 21st Century Fox.
So in true form, Golan and Globus simultaneously were working on films based on the Lambada.
Yes,
The Forbidden Dance.
The Forbidden Dance.
And so one had the rights to the name Lambada, while the other had the rights to the song Lambada. And they were both racing each other to get the production out, and they both ended up releasing on the same weekend.
Yeah, and it was that time period where dance movies were crazed, like salsa, and on the heels of Dirty Dancing and things like that.
As a result, they ended up
Dance.
cannibalizing their own audience because they ended up splitting the audience because they came out the same weekend. Anyway, Canon Pictures, the promise, the moxie of putting out these movies fast and loose, it kind of echoes Corman's type of approach.
Definitely. There's some parallels there for
quantity
sure.
over quality, but they just couldn't keep that going. You can't sustain this when things are so chaotic. Things just kind of fall apart, and they sure did. So yeah, we're going to celebrate some of these wild and crazy movies, and today's feature.
Would you say they were two wild and crazy guys?
Well,
I think so.
the documentary does say that one of their nicknames was the Bad News Jews, which that's not my term, but I'm ashamed to say that I'm just now realizing that Go-Go Boys is because both of their names start with G-O. I didn't realize that before.
Golan and Globus.
Yeah. But the movie we're going to talk about is their biggest financial success.
Yes, we're talking about 1986's Cobra, directed by George Cosmatos, which you pointed out he directed.
Unbelievably directed Tombstone, which is so wildly different and by far superior to this and his other films. But
I don't
Cobra
agree.
was financially successful. It made $160 million on a $25 million budget.
Which is a huge return. Starring Sylvester Stallone, screenplay by Sylvester Stallone.
He wrote the screenplay, although there are some asides we need.
Yes.
Also starring Brigitte Nielsen coming off the
Who
back.
he was married
Yes,
to.
Yeah.
and that was the only film that they made as a married couple because Rocky IV, that's
were
where
just
they met.
dating,
And,
yeah.
It also stars Brian Thompson as the really weird bad guy, Andrew Robinson and Rennie Santoni. And I'm going to read the straight synopsis because
Okay.
I don't think we have time to read the AI-generated
Oh, it
one.
was so funny, though.
I might post it on our social because
Yeah.
it's worth reading.
Just for kicks, I ran the Wikipedia plot summary through ChatGPT and told it to give it a humorous tone, and AI was pretty funny on this
Yeah,
one.
I laughed a few times. Los Angeles policeman Lieutenant Marion Cobra Cabretti finds himself at the center of a spate of murders carried out by a secret society called New Order.
Yes.
Killers who select weak members of society for extermination. As the murder rate rises, Cobra takes model Ingrid into proactive custody after she witnesses New Order's leader in action. As Cobra falls for Ingrid, they find shelter in a small town, but must soon fight for survival.
Yeah.
Okay, boys, where do we start?
Well, I think related to what you just said is sort of the underdeveloped philosophy of these criminals, because it's supposed to, they try to make
talking about the cult, the
make
New
them
Order
seem like their motivation is this sort of philosophical, super Mitch sort of thing, but they never really define it. They're just like, we are the future, and they don't really explain it. They don't,
The only ritual that we ever see, or the only thing we ever see them do, is like stand around in circles in weird warehouses and clank axes together. And
Yeah.
that's just
I called it the weirdest workout ever because they're just like standing there clanking axes. And I asked Travis, so with this gym membership, do you provide the axes, or do I have to supply my own axes?
Now, there could have been more exposition that was actually filmed, but so much of it got cut away.
We have no backstory of any of the characters, and that is one element of Sly's screenplay that got left out.
Well, let's talk about Cobra first, because we have to kind of paint a picture for everybody.
So
Well, Stallone himself said that he was like Bruce Springsteen
with a badge.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got Sly in tight jeans with a leather jacket or a black T-shirt. I can't remember which is it.
I think interchanging.
And then you wear some black gloves, maybe. Mm-hmm. And then you got the mirrored shades.
Yep.
With the
which
matchstick.
he wears even in the beginning scene
inside the grocery
walks
store.
in the grocery store. There's no lights. The lights are out. I guess they turn the lights out in response to this mass shooting. He walks around inside of the dark grocery store wearing the shades, and then in the most blatant product placement I have ever seen in a film, and I've seen a lot, chugs a Coors.
Yep.
While he's in the middle of like a armed standoff.
It's a warm Coors before he throws it
Yep.
as a distraction.
Turns label to camera.
Drinking on the job.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's part of a group of police called the Zombie Squad. And they don't ever really explain why they're called the Zombie Squad. But they were based on a real life like police unit somewhere in Europe.
The grocery store is we have a hostage situation from one of the cult members, and they call in Cabretti so he can get the Cobra. Mm-hmm. And so he goes in with John Wayne's swagger, and let's make a note that the freezer section of this grocery store must be loaded with dry ice, because we've got all of this this water vapor that he's walking through trying to look all tough. The cult member is just like got this hostages at bay, and he's trying to negotiate with Cobra. Let's give him his proper
Marion
moniker, with Marion Cobra.
They make a point. They do a whole bit making fun of his name a running bit making fun of his name.
So I'm gonna raise this question first, and we can answer it and debate it later. You know, something that Todd and I talked about: is this movie tongue-in-cheek written and poorly directed, or is it just all around just poorly
it's
executed?
impossible to tell.
Well, so this is an interesting thing. In an interview decades later, Stallone said about this movie, but he didn't really give too many details about why. He said he regretted not directing the film, which is interesting because it was wildly successful financially. Mm-hmm. So why would he regret? Well, he wrote the screenplay. We know that they cut out a lot of the elements that he preferred. So it had to have been from just a quality standpoint. He must have just thought they just kind of butchered what I was trying to go for. And Sly's not a moron. Like he's got a sense of humor, and I do think that there's signs that maybe there was some intent to do that, but
So,
they
Go ahead.
I was saying, to my point, in this particular standoff scene with this cult member, the guy's got a gun to the girl's head. That's like one of the shoppers or one of the employees, and Stallone delivers this line with no air of irony whatsoever. He's like, "I'm going to kill her. I'm going to kill her." He goes, "Go ahead, not make my day. Go ahead. I don't shop here." And I'm like, okay, so if that was ironically written, then this movie should have been played to the nines as a total tongue-in-cheek kind of.
Well, and this
wink to the
is
camera.
something that we see with a number of canon films, at least the ones we watched. We'll talk about Masters of the Universe later, where the tone is just odd, and it's like, what are they trying? Do they want
It's a
us
good
to
point,
laugh?
and a lot of that's backed up in the documentary about Golan and Globus, about how they will say, "Why are you doing this? Do this, do this, do this," and they make them make changes on the fly.
They were way too hands-on.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I will also say that when Stallone is in this era, he has a lot of control over what's going on in the production as well.
Yep.
And he did some editing himself that trimmed down things to just his character. But the script itself went through so many changes. It was originally the script for Beverly Hills Cop.
Yes, I saw that.
He rewrote the script for Beverly Hills Cop when he was attached as the lead, as Axel Foley.
Right.
Then that script was rejected. Eventually, he dropped out of the picture, and they brought in Eddie Murphy. But the script, the skeleton of the script, became this screenplay.
Which is further evidence that maybe there was some intended humor.
Maybe it was some intended
that
humor,
was just
which is lost in how this movie is directed, unfortunately.
What
It's
interesting-
also, you have to mention that it's based on a novel. It's enough like this novel called Running Ducks or something, also known as Fair Game,
Yep.
that they had to give the author credit. And that book was also adapted later in the 90s with Cindy Crawford in a movie called Fair Game, which resembles this movie not at all.
Yeah, and I think that the one thing about these two brothers I thought of at one point was we've talked about 70s Italian genre cinema before and how they're trying to rip off everything in America and that Jaws 5 and things like that. For the European audiences, often they would cut out attempts at humor because they didn't think that's what the audience wanted, or either they just didn't get it for whatever reason. And I bring that, and a famous example is Dawn of the Dead. When they did the cut for Italian audiences, they cut out all the jokes or all the satire, and I wonder if that sensibility is part of why there's just like this
Golan and
weird,
Globus
like,
did
are they
that,
trying to be fun? Like, it seems like maybe they were trying to be
It
funny,
could
but
be
it just,
a
you know.
combination of all of these
Yeah.
factors, and the
Yeah.
end result just doesn't work.
And the breakneck pace at which they were putting these things out.
Yep.
In the grocery store scene, it kind of ends with the climax of him telling the guy, "You're the sickness, I'm the cure."
Yeah.
Then he
But
throws.
later,
Then he throws a knife at him and then shoots him. And I'm like, that's adding insult to injury.
and then,
Literally.
But then later, to contradict
So in the
himself,
next scene,
he
Cobra's
rip-
driving home.
he rips a joint out of somebody's mouth.
He's
right?
driving home, and these Latinos will not get out of his way, so he can park his car. So he
Uh-huh.
bumps them,
and they're listening to
and-
Gloria Estefan.
and so they have a confrontation and an argument. And as he's walking away, the Latino guy lights a cigarette, and Sylvester Stallone says, "You know that stuff's bad for your health."
And the guy says,
And,
"What?"
What? Me. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, Cobra. You're the cure, or you're bad for the health?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick a lane, dude.
There's also the really good line, "This is where the law stops and I start,
Sucker. That was by I Howled. at
So
the end. Yeah, that's at the
we're
end,
introduced to Brigitte Nielsen's character. She witnesses the killing and gets away. So now she's got a target painted on her back, and she becomes essentially the witness protection damsel in distress. And that's where Cobra and his partner are introduced to her to kind of help keep her safe. All the while, Cobra's trying to crack the code on this. The funniest scene in the movie for me is when he's at his home office working on his computer.
Yeah.
And he's sweating
Yeah,
while he's
literally
working on the
sweating
computer.
bullets.
Yeah.
And I said, Sylvester, I know thinking's hard, but dude, you don't have to break a sweat. There's a great shot when Brigitte Nielsen's trying to escape the murder cult, and they stab through the door with a knife, a very paper thin door, but there's a complete ripoff of The Shining. It's a mirror image of the shot where
axe
Jack
comes
Nicholson's axe comes through, and Shelley, and she's like screaming. It's a mirror opposite, and she's doing it too. And I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing there.
Yeah.
Another reason that the movie needed so much editing was the incredibly graphic violence in the original cut.
Yeah.
The original cut received an X rating, which they couldn't roll with, so they had to cut it down to receive an R rating.
Yep. Another thing that I think is worth pointing out that might have been another nod to its original roots with Beverly Hills Cop is there was sort of a buddy cop thing going on, but very poorly developed with the character Sergeant Gonzalez, his buddy, Tony Gonzalez, which NFL Hall of Fame tight end was allegedly named after this character.
No shit.
But
Wow.
no, I'm just fucking around.
And the only real development that
actually,
character
though,
gets is that he's into junk food.
And he likes the donuts.
Also, he
There's
was
some
also-
weird food fixations in this.
Also, the actor who played Gonzalez, Rennie Santoni, is famous as Poppy from Seinfeld.
Yes, he's on the couch.
Yes, exactly.
Can we talk about the car?
Well, yeah. Go ahead. Talk about the car.
1950s Mercury that Cobra drives around. It was actually owned by Sylvester Stallone, and the studio produced stunt doubles of the car for use in some of the action sequences, such as the jump from the second floor of the parking garage. The producers built 3 Cobra cars for stunt work. Although they were identical on the outside, their moving parts were designed for specific sequences involving high-speed swipes with other vehicles, 180-degree turns, jumps, and 360 spins.
Clearly influenced the Fast and the Furious movies.
Once they have Brigitte Nielsen and her bad wig / hair in custody or in protection. She and Stallone end up rooming together in the hotel in this little town that's on the outskirts. And she's asleep, and he's sitting there disassembling his gun, reassembling it, making all this clanking noise. Notices that she's awake. He goes, "What's the matter? Can't sleep?" And I'm like, come on. This was a funny line. Again, furthering the notion that this was a satirical type movie.
Yes.
But it's played straight.
I feel like Stallone, that's why he says, I wish I had directed it. I feel like, not that it would have been a masterpiece by any means, but, you know, I feel like there were touches that you can see echoes of that just didn't come through.
Many times watching this movie where I thought this is intended as a parody or a satire of action movies, right? But yeah,
But
you're
the
right.
tone
The
is
tone
lost.
of it
Yeah.
it always plays it straight, and it just totally straight faced.
Okay, what we haven't mentioned is that there is a mole in the police. There's the second in command, not even second in command. She's just one of the higher ups in the cult. She is a police officer, and she's in with the zombie squad or whatever they're called with Cobra. And she's been feeding information to the cult about their whereabouts, so that she tips them off that they're in this small town. And that's when the cult shows up with their motorcycles and their vehicles and invade this town and put them in danger, and everyone else who happens to be a citizen of this town in the crossfire. It's baffling to me how this scene plays out. Like, these motorcycle guys are just constantly circling and trying to, like, attack, but they're just like this orchestrated circle. And I'm like, who attacks this way?
It's for intimidation, obviously.
Obviously. So they flush them out, and they're trying to escape the town, Sylvester and Brigitte Nielsen. And again, you talk about like thinking ahead. There's like this long, drawn out like chase where the motorcycles are chasing them. They've built a roadblock of burning cars at the edge of this town, and I'm like, well, how did you know they would go that way?
Well, maybe they had it on the other side of town too, but we just didn't see because they did go
obviously.
that way.
So Cobra and the girl end up in an orange grove on foot, and Sylvester Stallone tells her, "Go to the foundry."
Right.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
The foundry next to the orange grove.
Right next to the orchard.
You're not from this town. How do you know, and how do you expect her to know where the foundry is?
Because
This is in a
clearly,
time when every small town had a steel mill.
and clearly you need the foundry setting for what's going to
Sure.
come
Climax.
later.
Mike, you need to.
Terminator's already come out, right?
No, it
It
has
matters not how
No.
you get there.
But you do need to mention, though, that this is a completely automated foundry with 0 employees, yet everything is working.
And the fire's
and
burning.
burning. Yes, yes. So there's the giant confrontation with the big bad guy at the end.
The Night Stalker.
The
interestingly.
Night Slasher.
The
Well,
Night-
you're right.
Yes,
Slasher,
yes.
sorry.
There is a scene where Sylvester Stallone shoots a hand grenade and it explodes.
Yeah.
I believe that's a MythBusters episode in and of itself.
Yep.
Okay.
They fight hand to hand, even though Sylvester Stallone's gun is right within
Yep.
reach. And
So there's some
tougher.
Yeah.
yeah, it is tougher. It looks cool.
Well, there's something that comes up again. This is actually, I think, ends up being a trope in a lot of movies from the 70s and 80s, where either a citizen who's a vigilante or a renegade cop are fed up with the criminals getting away with shit, and so they're willing to bend the rules and do whatever. And we see this at the end. The Night Slasher is essentially like, "Oh, you're just gonna take me in and arrest me because that's
Right,
what you
'cause you're a
law
cop,
do."
you don't kill
And he's
people.
like, "Fuck!" And then he gives that great line that you mentioned earlier. We're gonna see this again a little bit later in a movie I'm gonna talk about, but it's like not original to that movie though. In the 70s and 80s, you have lots of movies with this sort of setup.
Yeah.
People fed up with crime and they're gonna break the rules to beat the bad guys, and that's, I think, where some of the fascism. Travis,
does that cover the point you wanted to make about how it ends?
Oh, just that he impales him on a giant hook. That was pretty badass.
Yeah. He picks him
Yep.
up, and hooks him. Cobra saves the day. Were there any remaining bad guys left? I think they arrest whoever's left, the stragglers or whatever. And
The California Highway Patrol finally shows up.
of course, Cobra has to punch his superior officer who's been riding his ass the whole time. That's typical 80s trope as well. The part that kills me is that they're wrapping up. Cobra's vehicle's destroyed.
But he still has his motorcycle.
It's not his motorcycle.
Oh, okay.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Cobra takes evidence
It's
and
one of the
leaves.
bad guys' motorcycle.
That would have been
Shit.
impounded
drives
as
off
evidence.
on
He
one of
fucking
the-
drives
yeah.
off with it. And everybody goes, "See you, Cobra."
Because he
have a
doesn't play
nice
by the
day."
rules.
And they ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Yep.
To
But I-
fuck.
I think though that ultimately, and Sean kind of picked at me because I gave the movie 3.5 stars on Letterboxd, which I'm splitting the difference because I admit that it is 0 as a film. However, it is highly entertaining, a 5, which brings up the concept of what separates a film that is merely just terrible and bad.
Splitting the difference is
versus,
2.5 times.
Yeah. Oh.
I feel
you're
like
right,
this
yeah.
is a philosophical
Damn it, the
debate which
math
we've
throws
been
off
having
too.
for
Yeah.
5 years.
But a movie that's merely bad versus a movie that's bad but also wildly entertaining, and things like The Room, Troll 2, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is that the people that are involved in making it, the production team in this case, and I think we see this bear out in the documentary, they have this weird vision that creates this almost alternate reality. And it's like, where are you coming up with this shit? And it's so weird that it makes you
I think-
entertained, even though there's not really a genius behind it or anything.
Having-
It's just, it's not David
The
Lynch.
accidental
Yeah, it's not
genius.
David Lynch. It's, just accidentally
Having just
entertaining.
watched Twin Peaks again, I noticed this time around watching it that Twin Peaks is like that. It takes place in a world of pure storytelling. It takes place in a world of like TV soap opera style
Yes.
storytelling, not in our world. And once you accept that,
Yep.
then it
Yep.
it makes sense.
Right.
The difference being that David Lynch was certainly well aware
Yes.
of all
Yeah,
of that.
yeah.
In this
Whereas,
case, you've got, again, it comes down to the director is heading this up. Tonally deaf when
Yeah.
it comes to the absurdity of what's going
Yeah.
on in this movie. And it's presented as a straight fiction. Mm-hmm. And that's where the movie goes off the rails, which makes it, again, I think it adds to the entertainment factor,
Right,
though,
correct,
because
yeah.
you're like going, what the fuck are you talking about?
Considering that we know the director can produce or can make a quality film, hence Tombstone,
Right.
I think he may have been hamstringed by just the fact that Stallone's presence on this film was so overbearing and controlling.
Or
It might have been the production team. too.
Or is it, and I think this is the possibility, people working on this film are more aware of it than we think it is, but we're totally committed to playing it completely straight.
Yeah.
So that it would work for an audience of mouth breathers,
Yep.
as well as it would work for an audience of
Yep.
irony-soaked hipsters like ourselves.
Well, and another star in this movie, and he talks in the documentary a bit. I forget the actor's name, but he was the lead in Hellraiser. He played the dad in Hellraiser.
Okay.
And you don't remember this from the documentary? And he talked about that he talked about how ridiculous a lot of this stuff was, that he didn't like, he was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to play this and stuff like that. Y'all remember that? Interesting. Okay. But yeah.
I think I remember, but I didn't
Well, I remember a lot of
the
people saying that
Hellraiser.
exact same thing in the
Yeah.
documentary.
Right, yeah.
It's a theme with the Canon films. Any fun facts
I
you
got
want
a
to throw
couple
in?
fun facts that we didn't get to. A very rare work print of the movie has circulated among fans. Although most copies are very poor quality, it has 30 to 40 minutes of footage not available in any other version.
Lost scenes.
It also has all of the X-rated material that was removed from the final release. Sylvester Stallone said he got the idea for LAPD Zombie Squad from a real-life zombie squad in Belgium, comprised of cops who go out at night and handle crazed criminals on their own terms. And does anybody want to take a guess at the body count for this movie?
Oh, it's high.
Any guesses?
46.
46 is a good guess.
72.
I'm going to go $1.
$1, Bob. So the body count is 52. Of those, how many were killed by Cobra?
Most.
Most, for
48.
sure. 41. 41.
So we have a sociopathic killer,
Yep.
and he's not a member
Playing
of the
With a badge.
So,
With a
folks, if
badge.
you really want to kill people, join the force.
They'll give you a laser gun.
I do want to point out this as a side note. Stallone's wearing a Tag Heuer watch in the movie. there ain't no fucking way a cop's going to be able to afford a Tag
Oh,
Heuer.
wow.
Yeah, it's a $2,000 watch.
He
fella.
probably took it from a
Probably. Well, if he's stealing evidence,
Yeah,
maybe
might as well.
maybe you're right.
Yep.
All right, that was Cobra.
Holy shit.
I had vague memories from seeing this as a child. I in the theater, I saw
The
this.
axe clanking scenes.
So you
really
remember
stuck
that?
with
I
me
remember
for
the
whatever
car
reason.
barreling through the parking deck and thinking that's no way to navigate a parking deck.
I remember the axe clanking scenes, and I remember the spiky brass knuckles / knife combo.
Yeah.
which I thought would have been a pretty cool weapon.
Hell
to
yeah.
have.
It's the kind of shit you'd buy
This
at the
was
flea
my
market.
My
Yeah.
first viewing of
Mine as
the
well.
film.
Really? Okay. All
Mine
right.
as well. Yeah.
Good. So new stuff for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Joey and I wrapping ourselves in the warm blanket of nostalgia. That's Cobra. That's the first half. We're gonna go take a break, but not before we say, "Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby and get ourselves some Whoppers
A Coors Light.
Yeah.
because they look like little cannonballs."
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, I thought you were talking about titties.
No, well, that's also canon.
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack. We promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go.
And we're back. I
Jason's
peed in the
back.
yard.
I did
think
too.
Travis did.
I held
I did
it.
as well.
Todd did. You did not. Okay.
Did not.
So we're all good.
So we got a pee check.
P-check's in. We're drinking some beers. None of them are worthy of note. So we're just going to jump right back into the second half.
I
We're
think
gonna-
it's worth noting that Todd's drinking a Michelob Ultra.
Yeah.
Yes, let's all point and laugh at Todd. All
90%
right.
of our audience, if they're honest, have had a Michelob Ultra.
Have had
within the
one.
last-
Had
As
one.
have we all.
Past
I mean,
tense being the key word, Todd. All right, Joey, you're up with the first film, and you picked a doozy.
A doozy. Before I unveil the film, I want to say that I chose this movie largely because it is indicative of something that I didn't realize until I started doing the research for this episode. And the Canon Group had a profound effect upon my developing psyche and probably the person that I am today. And I didn't even realize it because, you know, when you're 8, 10, 12 years old, you don't think about, like, the production company or whatever. It's just all these movies. But, like, there are a shit ton of movies in the canon, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah.
Which had a profound effect upon me at a tender age, not in the way that some movies have, but in an inverse way, because they helped me figure out what I am not into as movies.
Okay.
Yep.
And a lot of these movies, I'm going to talk about Invasion USA, starring Chuck Norris today. Like a lot of these movies, I have pretty good memories of watching these with my cousins when I was 8, 10, 12 years old. As I said, I grew up with 10 cousins. 8 of us are boys, and
Wow.
we're all around the same age.
Sausage fest.
And we all lived within 1 mile of each other and beat the shit out of each other in the woods and that kind of stuff. These motherfuckers loved these movies.
Yeah.
And as I talk a lot of shit about this movie, I want to make clear that, like, I don't mean this to disparage my extended family in any way. They're all, you know, they're good people. They love their kids, whatever. But early on in my development, I realized that, like, I'm not as into this shit as they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they would watch movies like Missing in Action and Delta Force and, you know, all these war movies, and then we would all go
Were
out
they
in the
Jean-Claude
woods.
Van Damme fans?
Oh, Bloodsport? Yeah, especially.
Yeah.
And then we'd go out in the woods and we'd play war, and we'd,
Yes.
like, you know, pretend to shoot each other with sticks and stuff, and they were really into this, and I would always end up just, like, playing in the dirt looking for, you know, lizards and bugs or whatever. So at a very tender age, I realized that there's something different about me, that our worldviews were somehow different, and these movies, believe it or not, had a lot to do with that, you know?
I believe it.
And so Invasion USA starring Chuck Norris, it is exactly what you think it is based on the information. If the only information you have is the movie's called Invasion USA and that it stars Chuck Norris,
Yeah.
it is exactly what you think it is. Directed by Joe Zito, who did other such ilk, like a couple of Missing in Action movies, did Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Spoiler alert, it is not the final chapter.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, so did stuff like
There's
that.
an epilogue to that franchise for sure.
Definitely.
An extended one.
So Invasion USA begins with some Latin American guerrillas with Soviet leaders. I guess Soviet leaders were left. to
Sure, why
assume,
not?
Mikhail Rostov, I think so.
Killing a boatload of Cuban refugees and stealing their cocaine.
Well, they were disguised as Coast Guard.
Yeah.
And as I told you on text, I said
Bienvenido a Estados Unidos.
it was so
yeah.
prescient that we have these refugees getting gunned down by the Coast Guard.
Very prescient.
Yeah.
They then trade the cocaine for weapons to stage an invasion of the USA. It's kind of a divide and conquer approach. They engage in some terrorist acts. They blew up the suburbs, pitting Americans against one another. There's race riots and such. And then Chuck Norris, who is a retired CIA badass, is asked to come out of retirement because clearly the only way that you can foil a communist takeover of the United States is to have a denim-clad martial arts experts walking around looking like one of the Oak Ridge Boys.
As I called it, the denim daddy, leather daddy hybrid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Although it was very restrained in the actual skill that Chuck Norris has, which is the martial arts stuff. They saved it for the end with a little roundhouse kick.
Did you guys know that Chuck Norris doesn't read books? He just looks at them until they give him the information that he wants.
Yeah, totally. And don't forget to mention the.
He also doesn't read the script either. He stares at it.
Have to.
He also
Don't forget to mention his little leather holsters with the little clips.
Yeah.
So his little Mac 10s like dangle off of his titties, and he just kind of holds them daintily at his side when he shoots.
One thing that was truly shocked, because I hadn't seen a Chuck Norris vehicle in a long time. He is one of the worst actors in the history of. Even the one-liners that he was fed, he could not. He was incapable.
He's just smarmy.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I'm going to present this discussion as a series of observations that I wrote down as I was watching this film because I couldn't do anything coherent with it because it's a pile of steaming shit. So as I was watching it, I'll sort of live tweet my reaction here. The first thing that occurred to me is this is the kind of shit that we will have if Trump ever decides that, like that North Korean dictator who kidnapped the South Korean directors to make propaganda movies. If he ever decides he wants to do that, this is the kind of shit we're going to have.
If Trump decides that the state should control all media.
Yes, these are the kinds of movies that
And I called it the Proud Boys Spank Bank.
It is. And as Todd pointed out, Kevin Sorbo would probably take over.
Kevin
the lead,
Sorbo would be the lead in this, yeah.
He's getting a little bit of age on him, but I guess that doesn't really matter.
No, that doesn't matter.
Second thing I noted. Okay, so this is an invasion of the USA, right? Is anybody who's ever played Risk or any of those kind of like strategy games knows, if you're going to invade the mainland USA, the very tip of Florida is
Not the way to go.
Not the way to go. Like, what kind of logistical shit is this? Like, we're going to invade America and cause chaos in Fort Lauderdale, and then
we're going to start with the bottleneck.
And we're going to do it with a ragtag gang instead of an army.
Yeah, there's like a couple of hundred guerrillas. And this is for all you Die Hard is a Christmas movie motherfuckers.
This is a Christmas movie.
This is a Christmas movie. Yeah. This is how you do a Christmas movie. In this movie, there is a literal war on Christmas because the commies, one of the first things that they do is blow up a fucking Christmas tree.
Yeah.
A little girl climbs to the top of a Christmas tree that they have in their yard. It puts the star on top of it, walks down, and then literally the commies blow up her house.
The entire movie, you have this family trying to go from place to place without getting blown up by these terrorists.
A whole generation of people got the wrong idea about what it means to be a badass from watching shit like this. Things like fights don't happen the way that they have. Like, there's a scene in this movie, there's many like this, but for instance, Chuck walks into a bar. He's trying to find somebody to get information out of, and the bartender is basically telling him he has to buy something or he's got to leave or whatever. And so Chuck squeezes this guy's hand around a beer bottle until it breaks. And instead of, I don't know, pulling his hand away or punching this asshole who just tried to squeeze your hand or whatever, he just falls to the floor whimpering. And Chuck walks away doing one of those one-liners that isn't even a fucking one-liner.
I know.
Can't.
No, and that's the thing. The one-liners were were so bland in this movie.
It's because he's such
they
a
weren't
bad
even
actor
funny.
that nobody can even
But
imagine
but
putting
yeah.
something in his mouth like
Even
that.
if he had delivered them better, though, most of them were just like not creative at all. It was like, I can't even laugh at this. Like I found this movie incredibly dull, to be honest with you. Like it sounds like, and I've already established that I'm willing to be entertained by this sort of schlock. I was kind of bored watching this with the explosions and the bad one-liners. He didn't even have any great fight scenes or anything. It seemed like he wanted to become a more, in his mind, legitimate action star or something. So he didn't want to do as much of the kung fu karate stuff. That's my interpretation of what we saw.
That plays into my next point, which is who decided that Chuck Norris was a viable action star? How did we as a culture?
Everybody
bring that
knows
up?
gingers don't sell tickets.
I mean, he has zero charisma. And
at all.
even the one-liners that they put in his mouth, he can't deliver.
He was just
them.
forced upon us, and we just accepted it.
I think that about 3 million housewives who are obsessed with Walker, Texas Ranger would disagree.
Yeah.
But that was a decade. He was already well established, though, at that point. It's like, I mean, how did it happen?
So when he goads Rostov, who's the Russian villain, who is played by Richard Lynch, nerds will know him as Wolfie from Battlestar Galactica, and B-movie horror fans will know him as one of the Nazi villains from the Puppet Master franchise.
That's where I immediately recognized him from. Yeah.
So he finally he goads him into confronting Chuck Norris's character goads Rostov into confronting him near the end of the movie, and he finally gets him. And the best thing he can come up with as the penultimate or as the ultimate like one-liner in the movie is, "Now it's time to die."
Yeah, I know.
What? No, man. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much else to say about this. It's dumb as hell. It's artless, joyless, jingoistic
That's what I'm saying,
trash.
Which is why it's so popular among the fucking knuckle-dragging bottom feeders.
Well, again, like I said, I was bored.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, I've seen just explosion after explosion. No, I mean...
Very, very typical of one of the kinds of films that Cannon was
Just
putting
blow
out.
shit up.
Yeah.
And this was the movie that the documentary talked about, right? Where the neighborhood was set.
I was going to mention that.
The neighborhood in Georgia was set for demolition to make room for the airport. So they let them blow up all those houses.
I was wondering how they did that because it looked like a real.
They blew shit up. They blew it up good.
The Atlanta Film Commission gave Cannon Group permission to blow it up. The area is currently the site of the Georgia International Convention Center in College Park, Georgia.
There you go. Yeah. So
also, another fun fact, Cannon completely removed all story elements and background characters in the editing room in order to concentrate on Chuck Norris and the action. Editor Daniel Lowenthal has stated that Cannon's cut made the film heavily episodic and pretty much a collection of explosive action scenes.
Yep.
That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this because life is too short, but I would be interested to go back and watch the other Chuck Norris vehicles like Delta Force and several missing
in
actions
action,
to see if they're this fucking bad. Because
my guess is he had to have done more of the karate stuff.
Surely
they
right?
saved a roundhouse kick for the end, like it was this big reveal, almost like a professional wrestler doing their finishing move or something. He didn't do hardly any of that. I don't know. Anyway, it was.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you for taking a bullet for the team and picking this dreadful movie. Todd, you're up.
All right, so I'm doing 10 to Midnight from 1983. It's a neo-noir thriller film directed by J. Lee Thompson. So J. Lee Thompson actually has some bona fides. He was nominated for Best Director for a movie called The Guns of Navarone.
Never heard of it.
But in the 80s, he became a go-to director for the Cannon Group, and particularly with collaborations with Bronson. So he did this film with Bronson. He did Death Wish 4. He did Firewalker.
Texas Ranger.
Yes.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. Murphy's Law was another Bronson one. So he was kind of their go-to in the 80s for whatever reason for these type of movies. So in any case, 10 to Midnight is a Bronson vehicle. And when I say a Bronson vehicle, Death Wish from 1975 was kind of a watershed moment for Charles Bronson's career, because from there on out, he made his living as an actor doing variations on Death Wish. Mm-hmm. So in Death Wish, of course, he played sort of a vigilante who's fed up with crime, and he goes on a rampage as a Rambo type.
He goes all Bronson on him.
Yes.
All to a smoking Herbie Hancock score, too.
Right.
Yeah.
And he goes on a rampage taking down crime in New York. And, of course, there are 4 sequels to Death Wish, one of which was directed by Thompson. And this film is kind of a variation on that. In this case, Bronson plays a detective, Kessler, so he's on the other side of it. But it's a similar premise where Kessler is fed up with the rules that he's constrained by, keeping him from bringing down the criminals who he knows are guilty. We see at the beginning of the movie this psychopath who actually I think is kind of an interesting character. It's played by a guy named Andrew Stevens. And this guy was really game in the role that he plays. As the character's name is Paul McCann, but he's a serial killer. And he spends about 70% of the movie buck naked. Because the MO of this guy is he hates women, and in order to avoid having much evidence before he kills people, he strips down naked. Completely naked, except for a pair of latex gloves.
Does he have no body hair to like?
No body hair.
Okay.
He has no body hair. He wears a pair of latex gloves to avoid, I guess, the fingerprints, and that is how he kills his victims, who are just women who just turn him down. We see at the beginning of the movie there is a flashback to a scene that he's very angry about, where he approaches a woman at his job and pulls the zipper down on her dress, and she throws coffee in his face. As she should, of course. So, this guy, of course, is a psychopath.
Going back to his MO, this movie came out right before police started actually using DNA to catch people.
Exactly. Yeah, so you could avoid your fingerprints or your blood type. Mm-hmm. In any case.
Unfortunately, he jizzed everywhere.
It's just splooged all over the place. So black light found it. Yeah.
It's like a fucking Jackson Pollock painting.
Yeah. He's also very good at setting up an alibi. So one alibi we see from his initial murder is he goes to a movie and very obnoxiously annoys some girls there, then sneaks out of the movie to commit one of these crimes. So he sets up but because of these elements that he set up that makes it hard to catch him, it frustrates Bronson, because Bronson figures out very quickly in the investigation that this guy is the killer. He tries to play by the rules for a little while, and then when he realizes that that's not going to work, he takes matters into his own hands. His partner is a younger cop who's about 30 years old or so, he's fond of, but who is idealistic. And at one point, Bronson says, well, I was like him, at his age or whatever. So, he'll learn. Bronson's daughter also comes into the picture, who he's apparently neglected because of his obsession with his job. Bronson finally decides, I can't follow the rules to catch this guy, so he frames him. He plants blood on his clothing, which the guy doesn't wear clothes during his murders. So this guy knows immediately that he's been set up. He's pissed off about it, of course. Predictably, this happened in the Death Wish films, too, in more than one of the Death Wish films. He goes after Bronson's daughter to enact his revenge, does a little bit of subterfuge to get Bronson away from the daughter so that he can go in and potentially kill her. It all eventually leads to this kind of ending of the film where the killer is running butt naked up the street chasing Bronson's daughter. I'm just going to give away the ending because I just think it fits in too well with the elements we're talking about. But he intercedes, saves his daughter, and the guy starts yelling about how he's going to get away with all this because they're going to think he's crazy, and he's just going to get convicted of being crazy, and he'll get out eventually, and I'm going to, you'll see me again. And then Bronson says, no, you won't. Boom, shoots him in the head.
Much like in Cobra.
Yes. Shoots him in the head. And then the closing scene of the film is Bronson holding out his wrists for his partner to arrest him. And that's when we see the credits of the film.
Take Me Away.
Yes. Now, some additional things about this movie that are important to the production team: tons of fucking nudity.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of nudity. Not just this guy running around naked, but female nudity.
Pretty typical of canon.
His initial kill that we see is him naked, chasing around a naked woman in the woods before he kills her. There's a scene where where he breaks in to kill Bronson's daughter. She's a nursing student and lives with a bunch of other nursing students, and so a variety of them are naked while he kills them.
Would you say that there was maybe nudity in the first 5 minutes?
That could have fit that category, yes. Nice. I think it is. I didn't use my stopwatch, but it was certainly within the first 10 minutes. Probably
It
the first 5
qualifies
minutes.
as that, yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that to me, because my selection for that is 3 hours long. So
We're talking about the Cinema Chop Shop Movie Challenge, available on Letterboxd.
Yes. But I think an interesting thing about this film in general, and I alluded to this earlier, and I think Cobra fits this bill. I think Invasion USA fits this bill. Tons of movies in the 70s and 80s, and maybe Death Wish kicked off a lot of this, at least in terms of popular film, of this lone wolf guy
taking the law into
his own hands, whether he's part of the law and he's like, fuck it, I'm disillusioned now, like the Kessler character in this film.
Well, it's part of the conservative mythos of the rugged individual.
Yeah. And so this is why a lot of these films get accused of being fascist. Now, the interesting thing about this is I've heard some of these. The Death Wish director, I read an interview with him. He said, I didn't have that in mind. They're doing exploitation films. Yep. And a lot of these guys they're not auteurs who are trying to make a statement. They're just like, I'm just trying to make a film that people are going to find entertaining and so I can get my next job.
And it's interesting that you mention exploitation films, because if you look at the big like sexploitation and blaxploitation, they made a bunch of those movies, but they're never on the list of the movies that you think about for those,
right?
Or that you see.
Some of the Pam Grier movies fit the vigilante trope as well. So some of those blaxploitation films have that element to them as well. I think 10 to Midnight ends up being very emblematic, though, of this era film, and also a lot of the different canon films that were done, that for whatever reason, these action films with the lone wolf who's taken on a corrupt system to right the wrongs is kind of the bedrock of it, surrounded by these exploitation elements of nudity and sexual titillation and lots of violence and all that good stuff. So in any case,
fun facts: the original script called for Leo Kessler to wrestle Warren Stacy to the ground in their final confrontation. Charles Bronson said he wasn't getting that, quote, up close and personal with a naked man. Also, Playboy playmate Gina Keogh, no relation, said she was really upset when Charles Bronson told her during filming that he had wanted her to play his daughter, but the filmmakers told him she was too tall. In reality, she was 5'7", the same height as the actress they did cast, but she had lied about her height on her Playboy modeling profile, saying that she was 5'9". That lie cost her the part.
Well, Todd, thank you for that.
Yes.
We're going on to Travis with an oldie but a goodie.
This is from 1985. It's called Life Force. And if you have never seen it, do yourself a favor, because it's sexy naked space vampire,
and it's probably the best movie
The
that we're going
quality
to
wise,
discuss
yes.
here tonight.
I agree.
It's got a 58% on Rotten Tomatoes.
it
which
should be
is,
higher than that.
the highest of the films that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Directed by Tobe Hooper, who also did Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And what else did you mention earlier?
So he did a couple other canon movies. He did Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 for them, which was more of a comedy satire, and a remake of the 50s sci-fi film Invaders from Mars.
Gotcha.
Which was also an interesting film, but a lot of weird
Misfires.
Yeah.
And so the cast includes Steve Railsback as Colonel Tom Carlson, Peter Firth as Colonel Colin Kane, Frank Finley as Dr. Hans Fallada, Matilda May as Space Girl, and Patrick Stewart shows up as well. Patrick Stewart shows up as Dr. Armstrong.
That's 2 weeks in a row for Patrick Stewart.
Who is the director of a mental institution And at one point, they have to sedate him and put him in a wheelchair, and so they're wheeling him around like Dr. Xavier. So plot: when a British-American space crew goes joyriding into Halley's Comet aboard the shuttle Churchill, they stumble upon a massive space vessel shaped like kind of like a dildo. It's a long, cylindrical kind of thing, but it has an umbrella on one end. Inside, they find a bunch of dried up kind of bat-like creatures and 3 fully naked humanoid creatures, 2 male, 1 female. Naturally, instead of screaming and running away, they decide to bring the alien beefcakes and bat jerky back to Earth. But on the way, something goes terribly wrong. Even though they appear to be in a state of hibernation or suspended animation, they have mind control over the crew, and one by one, they pick off the crew. Sometimes the crew kills themselves, sometimes they kill each other. One by one, they all die except for the captain, Tom Carlson. Sometime later, the shuttle returns to Earth, but it's non-responsive on radio, and so they send up the space shuttle Columbia that docks with that shuttle, and they realize that the entire original shuttle, the Churchill, is burnt out. It's just a hollow, burnt-out shell, but the 3 naked aliens are still intact, so they bring them aboard the Columbia and back to Earth. Meanwhile, the emergency escape pod has been detected, and Colonel Carlson, is still alive and arrives and tells them what happened. It takes him a while to relay the information, and he is in rough shape. It turns out he fell in love with the alien vampiress.
As one does.
After one
Me too.
sultry telepathic stare, in the process doomed his entire crew by sharing his life force with her. It's said that she takes part of his life force, but also gives him a piece of herself. With the help of an SAS colonel named Kane, they trace the alien to a psychiatric hospital, enter Patrick Stewart. Hijinks, hypnosis, and horrible decisions ensue. Meanwhile, the two male vampires pull the old switcheroo, and they're now parading around as British soldiers. We thought they had been blown up by grenades, but that was not the case. This, what they're calling a plague, it has overtaken London. London's in complete chaos, and it's really these energy vampires that are sucking out people's life force, but then they're also relaying it back up to the mothership, which was that craft that was docked on Halley's Comet. In a last-ditch effort to save the planet, Kane and Carlson team up with Dr. Falada, who somehow knows that you can kill these new space vampires with leaded weapons. So he has basically a sword made of leaded iron that he can kill them with.
So Hooper's blending in the vampire mythology within
definitely.
this sci-fi. Yeah.
After some melodrama and a final showdown at St. Paul's Cathedral, which is the only time that Matilda May is wearing clothes in the movie, Carlson lovingly impales himself and the space girl, and they float dramatically up to the spaceship, which is now full of stolen life force from London. And Colonel Kane watches, probably wondering why he didn't call in sick that day. So that's Life Force.
I like this movie.
I didn't know. It's a really good movie. It makes sense.
So fun to watch. Now, it is a canon movie, so it is cheesy.
Yeah.
The special effects are pretty bad, but for the time and for the budget, they're all right.
The victims who get their life force sucked out. You know what they reminded me of? They remind me of He Chose Poorly.
Yeah.
When the guy gets
the shrinking
desiccated,
completely
looking
desiccated
guy from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Yeah.
My lovely wife Michelle, happened to walk through the living room while I was watching this a couple of times, and she said, "Why is it only the girls that are naked?" And she also said, so are they vampires or are they zombies? Because it was kind of hard to tell with the plague thing that was going around. Still really fun movie to watch. Highly recommend. Couple fun facts. Matilda May had rubber soles glued to the bottom of her feet in order to avoid cutting them during the scene where she walks out of the building after breaking the glass windows. And for her audition, Matilda May had to learn her lines phonetically because her English was very poor at the time. In fact, when she was asked to disrobe, she excused herself to call her manager first, afraid that she was auditioning for a pornographic movie. It wasn't until she was assured that it was a science fiction movie that she relented. However, she is naked throughout the entire film. During the 6 months that May spent in London, she learned how to speak English and even picked up a London accent. And then finally, Toby Hooper came up with the idea of using Halley's Comet in the screenplay rather than the asteroid belt as originally used in the novel, as the comet was going to pass by Earth 1 year following the movie's release.
Smart.
One other fun fact about this, I first saw this movie in 2020, literally maybe 1 or 2 weeks before the lockdown, at the Nickelodeon in Columbia, because the heavy metal guitarist from Metallica, Kurt Hammett, had a... any case, he had an art exhibit going on at the Columbia Art Museum. He has a collection of 30s and 40s horror art that
cool.
they had displayed there. He also had an original print of Life Force, which later on that evening, after I saw the collection of films or photos that they put on at the Nickelodeon.
That's fucking
and
awesome.
He gave an introduction to it and all this stuff. So that was pretty cool. But
And then he sued everyone for watching it.
I was
That's
gonna
Lars.
ask
That's
if,
Lars.
All right, I'm gonna wrap it up. We're gonna bring it home with.
Finishing strong.
This is the nail in the coffin for Canon. We're talking about Masters of the Universe, 1987, directed by Gary Goddard, no relation to Godard.
yeah.
It stars Dolph Lundgren, Frank Langella, Meg Foster, Courtney Cox, Chelsea Field, Christina Pickles, which is a funny name, Billy Barty.
It sounds like the name of somebody's like pot-bellied pig.
Yes.
Oh, it's Christina Pickles.
Billy Barty, John Cipher, and James Token.
No relation to J.R.R.
No relation. So obviously this is a film based on the toys and the cartoon. This is when the evil Skeletor finds a mysterious power called the Cosmic Key, not part of the show. He becomes nearly invincible. However, courageous warrior He-Man locates inventor Gwildor, not part of the show, who created the key and has another version of it. During the battle, one of the keys is transported to Earth, where it is found by teenagers Julie and Kevin. Now both He-Man and Skeletor's forces arrive on Earth, searching for a potent weapon. This is a MacGuffin movie if there ever was one.
Yeah.
As a watcher of He-Man in the mid-'80s as a kid and a
Yes.
collector of the action figures, this bore no relation to what I remember from,
It has
Right.
from the show.
absolutely nothing to do with it, and I must say that there is no setup, no explanation, no character
Oh,
development
they jump
in
right
this movie.
into, it's
There
like a
is-
Marvel movie.
There is no depiction of the royalty of Eternia. There is no depiction of Prince Adam, which is He-Man's alter ego.
Right.
None of that is even mentioned. You start out with Skeletor, who has captured the sorceress, which is played by Christina Pickles, and she's inexplicably under a spotlight. And a lot of grandstanding and arching by Skeletor about what he's going to do. He's wearing this awful rubber mask that's
You
just
can't even tell it's Frank Langella.
it's laughable because it moves like a latex mask.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Although scary when I was a kid.
Oh,
So
really?
I had to say
Okay,
that.
all right.
Skeletor was scary.
All right,
Yeah.
so you've got this key that allows him to create these dimensional rifts, I guess, maybe.
It was
Who
ahead of its
knows?
time scientifically.
I
With
suppose.
the-
As I mentioned in the recap, they find the inventor of the key, played by Billy Barty, little person. His prosthetic mask looks like a deflated scrotum for some reason. I don't know why. It does not have any relationship to the movie or It has no explanation. I felt bad for Courtney Cox through this movie. Who would have known that she would have become this multi-millionaire television star?
That probably wasn't on her CV when she tried
got
out
the
for
Friends
Friends.
job.
Yeah.
No, I always
Exactly.
knew her as the girl that was in the Springsteen video
Yeah.
and was in that short-lived NBC show Misfits
Probably
of
how her
Science.
agent wanted that.
Yeah.
Too.
So yeah, the He-Man and Teela and Man-at-Arms go to Earth via this other key that the inventor has, and they immediately split up to go search for the other key or something, and they stay separated for less than 5 minutes, and they're suddenly back together again. Courtney Cox and her boyfriend find the other key. He thinks it's a musical instrument. He's an aspiring musician.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it just hurts to even describe what's happening in this movie.
It sounds right for satire, but,
It's
they
not
play
even
it
worth
straight.
It's not even worth it. Meanwhile, on Skeletor, he recruits these 4 mercenaries. I guess it's like the bounty hunter scene in Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back. Only one of the 4 mercenary bounty hunter type people is actually a character from the He-Man cartoons and characters. It's Beastman. The other 3 are not. And I'm like, well, you got all of these other guys. You got Merman, Stinkor, and I'm pulling from my 5th grade brain on these characters, but I remember them. No, let's not do that because we don't have those in stock. We're pulling these costumes out of stock, I guess.
There would have been a Reddit in 1987 about this.
The principal
Yeah.
the principal
Of nerds
from Back
complaining.
to the Future,
Yeah.
James Tolkien is in this. He's the cop who's kind of trying to figure out what's going on, and he's sticking his
Yeah,
nose
as soon
where
as
it
I saw him, I
doesn't
said,
belong.
"Oh, it's yeah."
Didn't that guy ever have hair?
Yeah.
Yep.
My favorite line in this movie, though, is when Billy Barty's character comes out from like behind Tolkien, and he turns around and goes, "What? What the hell is that?" And I'm like, "Dude, have you not seen a little person before?"
Yeah.
Wow, how discriminatory can you be? Skeletor and his gang end up on Earth somehow. Who cares? He's riding this floating throne flanked by these anti-stormtroopers. They're all in black instead of white. It's stormtroopers. He's riding this throne that looks like Cobra Commander's throne from G.I. Joe. There are literal cobras on the arms of the throne. I'm like, no, you got your chocolate in my peanut butter. Your peanut butter's in my chocolate. Anyway, they end up fucking capturing He-Man, taking him back to Skeletor Land or wherever the fuck it's called. They whip him with a laser whip, and I'm like, okay, somebody's really jerking off on this. The thing about this movie, though, in the cartoon He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, when Prince Adam transforms into He-Man, he says,
By the power of Grayskull.
So, yes.
I
am He-Man."
have the power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't hear this uttered until 1 hour and 34 minutes into the film.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean,
No,
it's-
the movie assumes that the audience, because they jump right in. There's no backstory. there's
exactly.
nothing.
So if you're going to make the assumption that we're on for the ride,
Yeah.
then give us what we came to see.
Sure.
By the way, when Skeletor gets his comeuppance and gets tossed, it is literally, once again, I mentioned this about the Shining shot. When he gets thrown over, it's the same shot and angle of the Emperor Palpatine getting tossed in Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just blatant thievery.
Yes.
Well, Golan and Globus said that Masters of the Universe was
Was
supposed
gonna
to
be
be
the
Star
next
Wars
Star
of the
Wars,
80s.
yeah.
Yes.
The stupid ass subplot about this is that Courtney Cox's parents passed away in a car accident or something, and she should have told them not to go on their trip or whatever. Well,
And
when
then they
Courtney
use that
Cox
against
when
her,
Courtney Cox and her boyfriend get sent back to Earth through the Keys portal, which we've shown the portal several times. You just real time walk through the portal and you end up in another place. Except for the last time, Courtney Cox and her boyfriend go back in time when they step in the portal so she can stop her parents from being killed. She wakes up in her bed like a dream. But that wasn't
It's like the Wizard of Oz.
but it wasn't established in the film that that's what happened, so I didn't understand that.
No.
And then, of course, the credits roll, and the film ends with Frank Langella coming up from this pink ooze, and he says, "I'll be back." And I had to laugh because no, you
never
won't.
came back. Yeah.
However, Masters of the Universe is slated for a 2026 release.
Correct.
A remake. So God knows
is
what
happening.
that's going to be like. Anyway, that's the piece of shit that helped nail the coffin. And Travis has some fun facts.
So Frank Langella has gone on record in interviews stating that playing Skeletor was one of his favorite roles. He had a young son at the time who was a huge fan of the cartoon series, and he basically did it for him. He
That's sweet.
did write some of his
His
own
son
lines.
had no discerning taste, though.
Langella wrote some of his own lines, including, "Tell me about the loneliness of good, He-Man. Is it equal to the loneliness of evil?" Also, Skeletor's troops are robots because Mattel, which owned and produced the Masters of the Universe toy line, mandated early in production that He-Man couldn't kill anyone on screen.
So yeah, they're robots, so it doesn't count. It's bad. It's they hung a lot of faith in this movie that it was going to have a big return.
And you were
It did not.
You were torn between this and Superman 4, correct?
I'd never seen either film.
Right.
I've seen parts of Superman 4, but I'd seen absolutely nothing of this one, so I chose
Which
this
is
one.
Superman 4 is
Quest for Peace.
It's the nuclear disarmament
yes.
of Earth, and it's got the Nuclear Man as the arch nemesis, who is a former Chippendales dancer.
I don't think I have seen it either.
Yeah, we should
that
probably
might be a good watch party movie.
we'll watch that on a camping trip. So, folks, that was Canon Pictures, and we only scraped the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, this could be a multi-part.
We could go into an
series.
entire series of
We could do a whole podcast of
Yep.
just canon
just
series.
talking about Canon.
Well, and there's even
We shouldn't,
There's
but
even
we
a
could.
confusing stuff because Joey and I both picked canon films that we, that were distributed by them but not
Yes.
produced because there's all kinds of. So they have hundreds.
That's where they
of-
made their money early on, is
Yeah.
they were taking these foreign films and distributing them in
Yeah.
the U.S. And I had to reel you guys in because,
Yeah.
as fun as it would be to talk about those films, they were not truly canon productions.
Right.
Oh God. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this trip down disaster lane as much as we have, because it was fun. It was an eye opener for some of the stuff I didn't know.
Yep.
And yeah, as we said, there's more beneath the surface that we can go into. I think we're going to do union movies next. Workers Unite
Workers Unite.
is going to be the episode. So movies about unions and the worker movement. Follow us on social media. We're Cinema Chop Shop everywhere except for YouTube and Blue Sky. We're Cinema Chop Shop Podcast. Rate, review, subscribe, do all the good things. Tell your friends you love them. Love your neighbor and do kind things for total strangers, because God bless, we fucking need it right now. There's some evil-ass people out in the world doing nefarious things that
It's
need
not
to
the
be helped.
dystopia we want, but it's the one we got.
It's the one we got. So, in the meantime, please remember to watch, chop, retrofit.